on your next order. That's Apollo.io.
Chris Sells His Soul is filmed in front of a live streaming audience, so don't forget to comment throughout the show. The show's about to get started, so grab yourself 2 hearty buckets of popcorn and get ready for a conversation about how to monetize your creative skills. Now it's time for a message from today's sponsor.
If you could go back in time and fix one mistake you made at the start of your business, what would it be? If I had to do it all again, knowing what I know now, I would start with much more money. The gurus don't want you to know this, but you can use money to buy things like marketing, basic living essentials, and LinkedIn Premium. Let's talk about that first one. When I first started my business, marketing was so hard, mostly because I don't have any skills. Fortunately, I did have money, so I was able to hire an agency called Flying Cat to do SEO and organic content for me. And now my marketing is much better. So the next time you feel imposter syndrome, just give your money to somebody more talented than you and take the credit when their idea works. After all, you were the one who hired them. If you think money can be exchanged for useful services, go ahead and drop a comment. And don't forget to click the follow button so I can protect you from the gurus.
Live from Chicago, it's Chris Sells His Soul. I'm your host, Chris Bogue, and this is my show where I have conversations with cool people who will help you work more creatively. Today, my guest is Brooklin Nash. Brooklin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris.
Is something funny?
So, yeah, if my eyes look red and I look high, it's because I was just crying laughing at that intro and the ad from Maiva from Flying Cat. That's so good.
Yeah, this show actually makes you high. If you're not,
I feel
familiar.
it.
Yeah. Why don't you say hello to the audience and let them know where they can find you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooklin Nash, one of the co-founders of Beam Content. You can find me on LinkedIn. I also pay for LinkedIn Premium, like Chris called out in the ad roll. And you can check out our agency, Beam Content, at beamcontent.co. We focus on long-form content and social content for B2B tech brands.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us today, Brooklin. As everyone can see here, the title of today's show is Writing for Smart Audiences. So this means audiences that have high levels of education, high levels of income, high levels of knowledge. They can be picky, they can be finicky, they can be hard to get their attention. So that's what today's episode is about. So I'm going to set the first topic up here in just a moment. But before I do, I figured I would introduce myself. So my name is Chris Bogue. This is my show. I am a trainer and coach and sketch comedian, and I help people get on video as the smartest version of themselves. So the version of you that needs 30 seconds to get the attention of somebody you're trying to sell to. That is what I coach. So you can find previous episodes if you go check out Chris Sells His Soul on Spotify. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. Go ahead, click the bell button. I'm friendly. I post new content all the time. Much of it about video, much of it about content, and also sales. So come join me in future episodes. So we're about to get started in just a moment. But before we do, I'm going to reach out to all you commenters out there. So if you are watching this episode live right now, go ahead and comment, specifically because we actually had an issue in the past where comments were not showing up on screen. So if you are watching this, please leave a comment. We're going to be taking questions throughout the episode. Jump in, ask us questions about selling to smart people, ask us questions about LinkedIn, about content creation, about running an agency. We are here to answer all the questions you have. And the first question that you should start thinking about, commenters, is who are your favorite creators? who make smart stuff. Go ahead, drop your comments there in the comment thread. We'll be addressing them throughout the show. And then finally, before we get started, I just need to give a shout out one more time to our fantastic sponsors. So first off, Flying Cat Marketing today, our SEO and organic content sponsor. Check out Flying Cat if you are looking to get serious about content. So this is both organic content creation and SEO. It's a primarily women-run company. They operate in over 15 different countries doing native language campaigns. Stop trying to do it all yourself. Hire somebody who knows what they're doing. Check out Flying Cat. They are going to be sharing some more brand new content with us later on today. And today's show is also brought to you by Apollo. So Apollo.io, if you're in sales, it is everything you need. You want accurate data? Apollo's got it. You want sales automation and sales enablement? Apollo's got it. We're going to be seeing more original content from them later on in the show. But without further ado, let's get this started, Brooklyn. So today we're talking about smart audiences. You over at Beam Content, you talk a lot about smart people. That is actually your tagline. You say your audience is smart. So I guess we'll start by asking you, is that even true? Is that even true, Brooklyn?
I think it's true. I think the last thing you called out for what smart audiences mean to us is key. It's not necessarily, it's not the same as B2C where you're talking about like level of income or education or sophisticated product. We're just talking about people who have deep experience in their field and no bullshit when they hear it and see it. Hopefully it's okay to swear.
No, you're about to be arrested.
It doesn't mean it has to be like overly sophisticated or it sound corporate to sound smart. It just needs to, the content for your audience needs to speak their language and speak to what they're actually facing and the questions they're having and the conversations they're having in their community, rather than just this like veneer that we put around content marketing that just ends up sounding like bullshit, and buyers are going to know that immediately.
Interesting. So I wonder what you think about this trend of B2B sellers becoming content creators, because that's kind of the camp that I'm in. I did sales all through my life, all the writing, all the creative content. That was like my hidden little secret. I was a sketch comedian on the side and I was selling full time. So I didn't even know what content marketing was when I started. I'm like, I'm just going to sell to everybody. And then I started making content and I discovered why it works, why it's so powerful. But I've noticed a lot of sellers can kind of break through by like, I guess we'll say calling attention to the elephant in the room, calling out the bullshit that people see. Like when you talk about like marketing bullshit, what do you mean and how did it get that way? And why do so many people think artificial sounding bullshit is the way to do marketing?
Yeah, I think it's because things have been more transactional in the past and you needed to cast a wide net, which meant a lot of scale for your content, which meant you kind of by default had to resort to the lowest common denominator. And that's how you end up with 10 tips to do XYZ or 7 tools to handle problem A. And guess what? Tool number 6 comes out looking the best. And tool number 6 is the brand that you're reading from currently. So it just kind of resorted to this lowest common denominator to support the scale that was needed for organic search and sales enablement and field marketing and all these different channels and avenues of marketing, right? I think sellers to your original question, I think sellers active on social can be really effective. I think one of the problems is a lot of salespeople just end up talking about sales on LinkedIn instead of the space that they're actually selling into, which if you're a sales coach or an agency or something like what you're doing, that totally makes sense. But if you're selling to HR leaders and you're spending all of your time talking about sales on LinkedIn and how you close a deal or how you do prospecting or XYZ, that doesn't benefit or interest your ideal buyer at all. So it comes back to this idea of engaging, recognizing that your audience is smart and creating content that is focused on engaging them.
Yeah, I guess for me, the kind of push and pull, and I'll take the role of sales here because sales likes to talk a lot of shit about marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the reason why that is because if you think about how most companies are set up, you have the all hands meeting, marketing is there, sales is there. I feel like marketing is often responsive to leadership and to the board and to like the vision that the people who run the company want to sell to the world. Whereas sales, we're accountable to the people that are on our lead list,
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes that looks completely different. And I think a lot of the times why there's so much hostility and why it's so hard for these two departments to work together is because we'll get through these meetings and marketing has all these wonderful, beautiful materials talking about all these fantastic things. Oftentimes things that like aren't even on the roadmap. They're things that like, future items maybe, or like vision kind of items for where leadership wants to go. And sales ends up not using any of them because they're like, I need to actually get people to close. And there's actually a very small number of practical things that the buyer is interested. So I focus almost exclusively on that. And all this marketing stuff seems to be a nice to have. So I know you run your own agency. Did you run your own agency because you got tired of the way other companies were doing it, or like where does what you're doing come in with that? Where do you fit into that gap between like what buyers need to know and the story that leadership wants to tell?
Yeah, I love the way you asked that. And for anybody listening, I didn't prep Chris on that, but that's exactly the gap we're trying to fill. There's this huge divide between sales and marketing. We've talked about it ad nauseum for the last, 10, 20 years of sales and marketing alignment, the silos and all this stuff. But I really think content can be the cornerstone of starting to build some structure rather than just continuing with the status quo gap between these different parts of go to market. Because you're right, sales doesn't usually get excited about the content that marketing creates. Why? Because it's usually pretty out of touch with the conversations that they're having with their prospects and with their customers every day. So I think one of the first steps in writing for your smart, informed B2B audience is talking to sales and figuring out, okay, what questions are coming up on these calls? What pain points are coming to the surface? What objections are you getting? Who are we going head to head with? Like taking all of these considerations in mind to create your content strategy in a way that can get sales excited about what you're creating, something that can help them in their process, either directly, like, hey, sending to a prospect, here's this resource we created. You were wondering about all these different decision points as you go through this with your buying committee. We just put together a buyer's guide for you. Or indirectly, where you're qualifying people through the content that you're creating so that by the time they get in front of sales, they're already actually qualified, rather than sales getting frustrated because marketing sending them all these MQLs that they converted on an ebook, but guess what? The ebook was from this 10,000 foot view and got 1,000 eyes on it, but only 80 of them were actually qualified in sales eyes. So it just kind of like narrows your focus to what actually matters for your buyer, for the marketing team, and for the sales team.
Let me kind of shift it then. So I'm calling this next segment Smart People Love Stupid Things. But one thing I have noticed consistently, and I frequently cite back to my days as a performer when I talk about some of these things, right? Because we talk a lot about data and feedback and reactions and research and all that good stuff. But there's another gap between what people tell you what they want and what they actually want. And like comedy is very instructive because it's very in the moment, and either they laugh or they don't laugh, you know? And when you're in improv, you quickly discover that if you only gave the audience what they said they wanted, every scene would be a bunch of grown men pretending to have sex with each other on stage, fully clothed. And because that's what the audience does. They scream, have sex with each other. And as a performer, you realize like, hey, just because it sounds funny to shout that out loud, you don't actually want to see that. You actually want to see a show that's deeper than that. You want to see well thought out characters with realistic motivations. You want to see smart, witty satire that's taking an honest look at, you know, the institutions that we run into in our daily lives. And I've had this, even as a guy who runs his own company, there is this frustrating thing where like sometimes you need marketing, right? And commenters, you can jump in. You know, I don't want to just shit on marketing the whole time. Marketing does a lot of really valuable things too, but I'll be tracking down a lead. I'll get a lead. I'll do a sales meeting, and they'll be like, "Hey, here's the 3 things we need to see. We need to see a case study of results that you got from a similar size business in a similar size vertical, and we want a layout of what they got and how much it cost." Mm-hmm. So I'll go through, I'll compile that, I'll send it all over there within an hour or 2 of the meeting. They never read it. They like saying, oh yeah, what we need is this and this and this. And they give you a bunch of homework assignments, and then they don't actually take the time to read it. So like, tell me about your process. How do you collect information on what is important to your audience? Do you ask them directly? Do you use tools to monitor what they're talking about on social media? Like, how do you separate what people actually want? Because I've got some sneaky tricks that I do, but I'm curious you. How do you figure out what are the important things that your people actually care about? How do you discover those?
Yeah, I think there's the informal approach and the more formal approach. Informally, it just a lot of this, honestly, like since I started in content marketing, the biggest benefit I've gotten out of social is turning that into one-on-one calls, networking, shows like this, just to like dig deeper into the space and identify the questions that folks are coming with. And that can be a pretty informal process. It's also hearing what we get on sales calls and translating that into the content we create and kind of the enablement behind the scenes type of content as well. We don't have nearly the volume as somebody like Apollo would have, but I think the idea is the same. Like we heard multiple times last year that our point of contact is sold, but they need to sell their CMO or their VP of marketing, and they need help going through that process. So now we're creating content to kind of help speak to the VP and CMO audience on the value of content, right? We heard a lot of validation of our approach with expert-driven content and taking time for interviews. So we've put out 4 different pieces of content that speak to exactly what our process looks like, to the point where you could take it and replicate it if you built out a team around it, or you can see how we do it, get validation through that, and then work with us. So it's just kind of like answering those questions in public.
So this is like social media content you're not talking like sending it directly to the people involved in this process. You're talking about putting this on LinkedIn, I'm guessing?
It's both and. So it definitely pulls through to social, but that's a distribution channel. It's not the content itself. Mm-hmm. So we have the articles on our site with templates linked out to different Google Drive files. We do send them to prospects directly when we get a specific question about how does this process work, or what's your approach for sourcing interviews. We'll just point them to that content because it lays out our process. And it's also a little bit for outbound. So we started messaging people instead of saying, hey, do you want to work with us? It's, hey, I saw you're new to your role within content marketing. We just put together a ton of free resources around this. okay if we send it over? So it all ties together, right? And then the more formalized approach that we've taken and iterate on with our clients is taking time for a survey. So we surveyed 400 marketers earlier this year about what they think works for content marketing. For both, we talked to both content marketers and non-content marketers, going back to your question about like this gap between content and everything else, just to understand why the gap exists and how we might be able to start to bridge it. And that's been our best performing piece of content, I think, because it's grounded in those 400 different perspectives from within the go-to-market team.
Yeah, it's interesting. The more I do this, the more I feel like the fact that an audience is taking part in the process is like more important than the quality of the information they're getting. Like, you can have the most brilliant presentation in the world, but if your decision maker doesn't feel like they're part of the process and they're being understood and they're being, taking the time to talk about their vision and, whatever it is, like there's a lot of reasons why good, effective, well-made, useful content gets seen by nobody and does not accomplish its goals. So Brooklyn and I are going to spend this second half of the show talking a little bit more about how to sneakily get information to the people who need to see it. Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
it's with memes. We use a lot of memes and a lot of humor. I'm sorry, did you have something to add?
Sorry. Just I love that you called it "Smart People Love Stupid Things" because it's what you just laid out. But then that's where I thought you were going, was the memes originally. But just a bridge thought there too. I think, going back to your point about improv shows, I think people make the mistake of conflating the format or the idea or the hook with the actual substance of the content. Like, you talked about improv. I think of Hot Ones, the interview show on YouTube, right? Huge hit. Pretty simple / not stupid concept, but like crazy. Let's have famous people eat really spicy wings. I think the concept is a piece of why it was so successful, but I don't think it would be nearly as successful if Sean, the host, wasn't such a fantastic interviewer and the substance of the show really goes deep and you get a side of these famous people that you don't usually get in the 5-minute clip from a late night show. So I think there's a difference between like the conceit or the concept or the idea and the actual substance of the content, which maybe sets up what we're talking about here too, and the other side of stupid things.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we're going to get deeper into that too, because I actually you bring up Hot Ones as the great example. I also think it's a great example because there's 700 different B2B companies out there who saw that and is like, oh, let's just do exactly the same thing. Yeah. We'll just invite people on and give them hot sauce. And that's going to be a great idea because it's the exact same thing that this popular show is doing. And marketing has a tendency to rather clumsily take whatever's popular and kind of run it into the ground until it's not fun anymore. Speaking of which, though, it's time for Gimme Gimme. You ready for Gimme Gimme?
Already?
Brooklyn?
Sure.
Yeah, we're just flying by. So everybody, we like to take a time in the middle of this show to correct a pernicious myth that has been misinforming the users on LinkedIn, right? This nasty, horrible misinformation going around saying that the point of LinkedIn is to selflessly help people and ask for nothing in return. And we know that's not true, right? We actually know that LinkedIn is the only social network that was invented so you could make money. That's right. It was designed as a place you could upload your resume and get a higher paying job or find new employees with better skills. So every once in a while, I like to get into character, and my guest and I like to ask my audience for exactly what it is that we want from them. So, Brooklyn, are you ready to do Gimme Gimme?
Ready.
Let's do it. Hello. Welcome to Gimme Gimme, the part of the show where I demand that you give money to us. My name is Boss Bogue, and before we do anything, we are going to give a shout out today to our wonderful sponsors. So, everybody, come in here and take a look before we do anything selling ourselves like a fierce mama grizzly bear fighting for her cubs. I'm going to first implore you to take a look at today's sponsors, and then me and Brooklyn are going to sell our own services. So today's episode is brought to you by Flying Cat Marketing. Do you want great marketing? Then fucking pay for it, you miser! Or you think you're gonna learn how to do SEO? I don't even know what your business is, but if it's anything like most of the marketing I've seen on LinkedIn, it is dog. Okay? So go to flyingcatmarketing.com and pay somebody who actually knows what the hell they're doing, for the love of God.
Chris Sells His Soul is also brought to you by Apollo.io.
Oh, you're in sales and you're not using Apollo? Are you crazy? It has everything you need, all right? So go to Apollo.io, take out your credit card, and just buy it, all right? Don't research it, don't ask questions to your friends, just buy it and thank me later. That's Apollo.io. This is Gimme Gimme, Brooklyn. My audience is here. They're on LinkedIn, they have money. What do you want them to do?
Well, now I'm suddenly feeling underdressed, Boss Bogue.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ask directly. Not going to ask directly for money. I mentioned the report earlier. I'll drop the link in the chat. But if you are listening, interested in this idea of bridging the gap of the role of content within go-to-market, just go check out the report and see what other people are saying about it, and then send me a DM. I'd love to hear what you thought. If you think we missed something in our own takeaways, or if you have follow-up questions after reading through it.
Yeah, check out Beam content. At the very least, go follow Brooklyn on LinkedIn because he has better memes than you. All right, we're going to talk about this in just a moment. Not all business memes are the same, folks. I'm going to give you a clue. 99% of them on LinkedIn are terrible. All right, you want some actual funny, intelligent, useful business content? Go ahead and follow Brooklyn on LinkedIn. Go ahead, scan the QR code that you see right there. Or you could do something else and you could check me out. All right? So as I'm showing you all these wonderful brands here that I'm promoting today, you might be saying, well, why don't we just hire Chris? Why don't we just bring in Chris to do a workshop and get us making fantastic, intelligent video content and sending 30-second prospecting videos to fill our calendar with qualified meetings? And to that I say, you're in luck, friends. Go ahead and scan that QR code. I will graciously set aside a 30-minute prospecting meeting for you. I won't even charge you for the fact that I am deciding whether or not I want to allow you to pay me money. Chat with me. We'll have a great time. I do workshops. I do keynote speeches. I do video prospecting training. I do content development. I do sponsored content. I do everything, baby. Go ahead, scan the QR code to check it out. Brooklyn, do you have anything else you want to add for my audience today?
That's it for right now. You're giving me Billy on the Street vibes in the best way.
Excellent. This has been Gimme Gimme. Iggy, roll the tape.
Hello? Is this Mr. Sherber?
It sure is. What can I help you with, brother?
Hello. You were not expecting this call. Do you have 17 seconds to
Hang
learn
on a
about
second.
mercifully short...
Is this a cold call?
I don't know.
You. Never call this number again.
Oh no! Another unsuccessful cold call. You probably don't have time to f*** off.
I got a quota to hit.
Are you spending hours every week cold calling and cold emailing but not seeing results?
There's gotta be a better way.
Introducing the complete guide to selling on video. Whether you're new to sales or a President's Club member, this fast and fun course will teach you to efficiently create short, customized videos that get results. The complete guide to selling on video is not sold in stores. Visit chrisbogue.io and use promo code GIMMEGIMME to take $50 off while supplies last. Don't delay. Get noticed today.
All right. And welcome back, everybody. If you are just joining us, I am here with Brooklyn Nash. We are talking about creating content for smart audiences. And now we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, except mine. I'm okay on memes, but again, we're gonna get into memes here. LinkedIn memes, are they amazing, or are they cringe, or are they both? So again, if you are watching this live on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever you watch live, go ahead. We want to hear from you. In Brooklyn, memes are a big part of what you do. So tell me, what is the importance of memes? Do you think they're amazing, or do you think they're cringe?
Yeah, maybe in a minute we turn it around on video because I'm not so great at video. So
Yeah, we will.
it sharpens iron. Yeah, memes are a big part. I made a post before that meme marketing is real marketing because it gets attention if you do it well. I think it's awesome that Apollo and Flying Cat are sponsors because this wasn't planned, but I think Apollo is a great example of a B2B brand who does not just memes well, but social marketing in general and bringing that just like a human personality to the content that they put out with Daniel and Marioli, and now they've grown the team, but I think they were the two OGs focusing on this. And they do a lot of memes too, to I think great effect. I think when memes can do well is when it reflects what we were talking about earlier of the actual pain points of your audience. When somebody can see it and go, like, just get it immediately and see themselves in it. It's not just a stupid joke for the sake of making a stupid joke. It's a format of making a joke about a headache or an issue or a joyful moment that we all run into in our day-to-day work.
Yeah, I think memes are interesting because they are the inside joke of the internet. Memes are how people on the internet display a casual, deep understanding of things. Because they're so simple and anybody can pick them up. And I use memes as an instructive way to teach improvisation too. Because in improvisation, there's a rule that says don't tell jokes. That seems odd to people because they watch my stuff and they see that it has jokes in it all the time. But actually, when you're on stage, you learn that you don't want to do jokes because jokes are selfish. Jokes call attention to you. And most importantly, if jokes fail, then it's super awkward. When someone's like, oh, I'm going to tell you the funniest joke on earth, there is this impulse that people have to not laugh. We want to resist laughing. What we do instead is we play games. We say everything your partner says in improv is a game move, and it's all about finding something you can play off of, and then it's heightening a game, and then eventually subverting the game. And this is all based in pattern recognition. So we say comedy comes in threes. It's because you see one thing, you see the second thing, which introduces a pattern. Now you do the third thing, and the third thing is you're either going to advance the pattern or you're going to subvert the pattern. And whatever you do is correct, and it's the same thing with memes. It's like, are you going to heighten the meme or are you going to subvert the meme? And you see that memes go through these transformations, I think. And maybe you can get into this too, but I think that one of the important things about memes is that they shape and they evolve. And, it's not just that you're looking at a funny joke. You're looking at a community of people who are like all taking different angles. They're all making moves on the same joke. So maybe here we can pop to where do you find memes? How do you actually physically write them? Do you have like a meme connoisseur on your team that is handling the memes? Like, how do you actually go about creating these things?
Very unscientifically. I might be concerned if we had a process for creating memes, to be honest, because I think that defeats the purpose. But I don't know. I've been on the internet for a very long time, since like Advice Animals days on Reddit, like 2005, 2006. I kind of miss Advice Animals sometimes. Those were solid.
Was that before Pupper Doggo? Because I look at the Pupper Doggo era and I'm like, shit, I'm an unacceptable person. Like, I can't believe I used to post Pupper Doggo memes, expect my family to look at me without gazing their eyes down at the ground, you know. But yeah, it was cringy times.
Yeah, there were some cringe moments. But it's like your inside joke point is so spot on, because some of those old memes, like if you don't have the context on what the meme template or format means, it's going to mean nothing to you. Like you have Insanity Wolf, right? You put the caption over it, but if you don't know that the wolf is Insanity Wolf, then it doesn't make any sense. So nowadays, I think they've come a long way where you don't have to know the format necessarily to get the joke, because it's expressed in either the flow or in the face reaction or whatever it is. I'm not answering your question.
Yeah,
Spent
like
a lot of time on the
do you go to
internet,
Reddit?
I just
Reddit,
come
Twitter,
off-
where do you find that?
Yeah, Reddit, Twitter, LinkedIn, and newsletters for like formats, for like thinking of a particular GIF or moment or short video clip or image that would work well for a particular type of caption. And then it's taking that and putting the right caption around it in a way that makes sense to part of my audience, whether it's freelancers or content marketers or like LinkedIn influencers, right? There's different types of jokes for different people. And then I just make it real quick in 90 seconds, take a screenshot of it, and then sit on it until it's time to post it.
What program do you use to make it?
How would you even say it out loud? imgflip.com.
Image flip. Okay.
Yeah.
I call it image flip. Because this is another interesting thing we're going to get to, where like, so one funny thing about me that people don't realize when they watch the show, because they see all these crazy sketches I do, and I edit most of those myself using Adobe Premiere Pro and other tools. I did not know how to use anything in Adobe in the year 2020. Like when 2020 started, when I first started making videos, I was good at being on camera because I had been on TV before. I had no idea how to edit a video. You know, so I kind of taught myself the Adobe suite. Now I use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Audition. I use all these Adobe tools, and now my meme skills are actually very technically proficient. You know, when I really want to make a good meme, I can like Photoshop out the other person's head and like put in the perfectly cropped version of the head that I want to put in there, and like do the color correction and the blending and everything, so it all looks like nice. And yeah, I think there actually is a barrier if you want to get into memes about like how do you make these things. So these are for the ones for the company. You find that just using meme generators online tend to do the trick.
Yeah, pretty much. You said you're not so good at memes, but it sounds like you're much more proficient than I am. I just do screenshots and moving stuff around and adding text online. But yeah, and then sometimes I'll think of the joke first and then try to find the right format for it, if that makes sense. Like going through the image flip site with all the different formats they have on there.
Yeah, it's interesting because half the Simpsons memes I share are Simpsons based. Because I have a very shallow pool of reference, and I'm like a huge Simpsons nerd, you know. So yeah, I get those from frinkiac.com. But even then, a lot of times the memes I'll use is just changing the dialogue on the screen. Like I remember one time I got a Homer Simpson joke. The original joke was Homer sitting in his underwear, like smoking a cigar, and he goes, "Everybody's stupid but me." And then he falls asleep smoking the cigar, and his house burns down. So I changed that. So it was like content marketers on LinkedIn. And it's Homer saying, "Everybody's inauthentic except me." And I'm like, because that's because again, at the time I'm selling to content marketers. And, you know, again, that is if you spend a lot of time around content marketers, you know, they all think their own content is great and everybody else's content is bullshit for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I probably do like a meme every like month or two. So again, this is just kind of like an off the cuff thing, or do you think like, I know there are certain pages that basically only do memes, you know, and like they seem to do quite well for themselves. So like, you know, in a marketing plan, if somebody's like, okay, we've got a SaaS company. We're just starting to growing. We're trying to get funding. We've got our initial list of clients, and now we're trying to like grow to like, our initial 7 figures a year or something. And like, here's our organic content plan. What percentage of that do you think should be memes? If you had to guess.
Putting me on the spot. 10 to 20, maybe.
Okay.
10 to 20%. It shouldn't be your whole thing, unless you are, like you said, like Ken's page, sales humor, which is all memes, or Daniel's thing, marketing millennials, which is mostly all memes. And that's your thing. And it's more about audience growth, and you're a media company. You're not a SaaS brand trying to sell software. You have to balance it out. But that's about the balance for us. Maybe ours is up to 30%, if we're being honest. But that gets more attention, which grows your audience. But then you got up with or personable content, or transparent content into your tool or your process or your service.
Yeah. So maybe we'll just trade a little bit of like kind of behind the scenes info here for what we do. But like the only thing I've found for me, and I'm a solo business owner, so I'm always walking this line between like wanting to make stuff that's going to get out to a big audience so I can grow my following and I can have impressive engagement numbers to show people. And also finding actionable niche kind of stuff that I can make that's not going to play to a huge audience, but is going to identify the type of buyer I'm looking for and direct them towards me and the things that I do as a potential solution to the problems that they're having. And even this show is an example of this, because every week I alternate. I'm sitting down with Brooklin Nash talking about writing for intelligent audiences this week. Next week, I'm going to be playing Death by PowerPoint, which is a show that's half as long, has twice as many guests. The segments move fast. It's a purely kind of comedic show. And it's an example of the two things I do, because I think of a show like that as like, how do I get into more news feeds? If I always have guests that are popular, if I'm doing something fun and unexpected and interactive, that's just a way to get people who are scrolling through the feed interested to discover me for the first time, to follow me or connect with me for the first time. Shows like this do not get listened to as much or watched as much, but the people who do watch them are more likely to reach out to me and be like, hey, I heard what you guys were talking about. And like, yeah, let's talk about coaching or workshops or something like that. So it's like,
It's so spot on.
How do you have that conversation with a company when they're like, okay, we got to do this. We got to establish ourselves as a thought leader. We got to do this. And when are you ever like, you need more stupid memes to achieve your goals?
Yeah. I think it's just trying to walk them through adjusting their expectations. I don't know, especially for brand social, if the goal should ever, it should rarely be direct conversion from that social page. Social is your opportunity to build trust and authenticity and a connection with your audience. And you can do that with the stupid memes and the jokes and the short videos and the photos of your team and customers, making it very personable. And you can balance that out with more in-depth, helpful content for those who do come back and see what else you're putting out. And I think you need both to build awareness and then trust under that awareness. So it's the exact same thing for us. Like I posted a dumb joke last week about, what was it? I forget what it was even of. It got like 800 likes. It was like 2-line post on LinkedIn. And then earlier this week, I posted a more in-depth take of our approach to a specific piece of editorial. And that gets like 50, 60 likes. To me, those are both successful, because those who engaged with the more in-depth, helpful post are just essentially qualifying themselves and saying, this is interesting to me, this is helpful to me. That's where I don't get DMs and sales opportunities from the memes. but I get more attention from those on those more in-depth posts. And then that's when I get the DMs and the sales requests and so on.
Yeah, I more use it as a way, like I'll make a meme about creating intelligent content, for example. And then everybody who interacts with that post, because that's a fluffier post, I'll go ahead and I'll invite them to this live event, because they've signaled that they're interested in the topic on some level. It's not enough for me to be like, hey, I'm going to reach out and expect a 30-minute like discovery session out of you, but if you cared enough to click the like button on some sort of material about this topic, maybe you would want to go watch a more long form episode about that topic.
Yeah.
And then from there, we break it down into a sales strategy, looking at that audience. And I'm always looking at like, yeah, is this a audience member? Is this a fan? Or is this a potential buyer? And oftentimes those fans are the ones that can get me in front of a buyer, That's really a lot of, I talk about sales a lot, but it's going after the people who oftentimes are not the decision maker, but they're big fans. And I'll just talk to them first. I'll be like, hey, I see you appreciate the content. Like, is your team doing any video? Is this something you think that they might be interested in? They'll tell you because they're a fan of what you're talking about. And then I'm like, okay, tell me about your boss. What are they fixated on right now? What are the problems that keep them up at night? What's their boss on their ass about? Because it's not getting done, And then when I come to them, I can come to them like, hey, here's this case. Here's why I want to talk to you. I know you're working on X, Y, and Z goals. Here's what I think I can do for you. And then I've got social proof from their team member who forwarded my information on in internal channels, which is something I'm big on too. I'm like, everybody's got their spam filters up. So if somebody at your company forwards you a video from Chris Bogue and is like, hey, check this out, I get so much more credibility that way, somebody warm in your organization sharing it with you as opposed to me coming from the outside cold. But I put a lot of thinking into the mindless entertainment, all in order to set myself up to be able to like have those kinds of meetings. So
you're right. It's like brand awareness on a micro scale. That's something we need to get better at because I'm not a salesperson by trade or training. But yeah, taking those outside conversations and figuring out the right way to re-engage them is something we need to work on. Because you're right. We've gotten so many half referrals we get are from people that we've never actually worked with. We've just engaged with them on social and they've seen our stuff on social and we get a referral out of that, right? Anyway.
No, the funniest part is I've actually used memes to identify that. Because again, I teach a lot of what I teach for sales. Like I teach a very specific kind of sales, and that's video prospecting. Mm-hmm. Most of the sales coaches out there are teaching you like, still, it's 2024, and they're still like, go make cold calls, go send cold emails. I'm like, hey, get disciplined, get that 30-second intro, show up for 30 seconds, with the message that you want. Mm-hmm. Saying the things that you want to say. But I'd be on LinkedIn and I'd see somebody would be posting some meme being like, when you send a vidyard but your prospect only watches 10 seconds of it, and it's somebody crying and wanting to die. That's the kind of thing I'll mention in the prospecting video. Be like, Brooklyn, I want to reach out. I know you guys recently got a SendSpark account and I noticed some memes are being shared that prospects aren't watching the whole thing. And that's a pretty common problem. I've got a lot of techniques I use to get that number up to 100%. And let me know if you'd be open to a chat about that. And that's all the video is. And then I follow up and I do my due diligence there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of using the video to create that trust, get people feeling like they know me. So I guess let's talk a little bit. You can take the text side here and I can take the video side, but how do you build trust with just the text in a world where we have so much text everywhere? It's hard to know whether something is AI generated or authentic. How do you use text to get people to understand who you really are and what your organization really does?
Yeah, you're probably talking to the right person because I'm not a video guy. Like everybody's got these talking head videos, right? The walking and talking. And I can't do it. I haven't decided if it's like a weakness that I need to overcome and just go through it, or if I'm just okay being like, I'm 32. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I'm just going to stick with the text, but that's where I am now. I think, so I actually wanted to ask you about this because this is very anecdotal. I haven't done like a study over it or anything, but I think still, even with LinkedIn really pushing video, they have its own feed, like TikTok-esque feed now. Text gets higher engagement on LinkedIn still over video. Like I'll see the videos, whether it's a talking head, very informal one, or a well-produced video. And again, anecdotal, but 9 times out of 10, it seems like the text posts have a much higher potential for engagement. Like I see text only posts all the time that go viral for LinkedIn, not for TikTok or Instagram or whatever platform, but by LinkedIn standards go viral with like 5,000 likes, 10,000 likes, like 1,000 comments, etc. Those are almost always text posts. Those aren't video posts. So I think text can do really well on LinkedIn still, as long as you're coming back to that authenticity. To use the buzzword based off of your meme, but like just honest and authentic, and getting at this like goal of having the reader go, I see myself in that, or I get that, or like just it landing. I guess there's still a big opportunity to do that with text.
I'd say a couple things are happening here. One, you're probably just a text-based guy. And I saw Scott Leese, friend of the show, had him on our most recent episode. He was going through this whole rant about how he hates voice notes and he hates video prospecting. And he's like, I don't have time for those. You got to put yourself in the mind of a VP for sales. They don't have time for that. I'm like, well, a couple things. One, there's a certain type of personality who does watch videos, and they don't read a lot of the written content. If there's, and like that was why I went my own way in the first place, is because I discovered on my own in my last sales role that like video is not a magic bullet for everybody, but there's a certain type of person who is unresponsive to calls and emails who will watch a video. So it's a type of person that you're not going after. I would say the problem with video is also the strength of video, whereas it requires a higher level of attention. It requires a higher level of production. There are a lot more moving parts to it on a creator standpoint. And from a consumer standpoint, it's more labor intensive to watch, as opposed to like, I always say, when I write an email, let's say Brooklyn is like, Chris, write me an email about why I should work with your company. I'm really interested. I really want to get, working on getting some videos out there. Even if you really want to read that email, you're going to skim it.
Yeah.
That's just how we're designed.
Let me clarify, because I'm not a salesperson. I think the video prospecting, like if I get a video or even a voice memo in my inbox in LinkedIn, 100% I'm watching it or listening to it. I can't say the same for all the other written DMs I get, and same for email. I think I'm more talking about on the actual feed and your social content is the dichotomy I'm meaning. But you're totally right on video, as long as the substance is there. Because sometimes I'll get a video where it's this customized video that they send me and it's a screen grab of my site, but it's very clear that it's just, all they did was take a screen grab of my site, and it's the same exact video of them in the corner that they're sending to everybody else. That's a big pet peeve of mine. So you have to like deliver on it, right?
Yeah. And, I spend so much time nailing the first 3 seconds of my video. I posted a video this morning. It's a birthday video, even just like I'm lighting a cupcake, like a candle on a cupcake, and there's like a little confetti explosion.
You told me this before. It's your birthday today.
Uh-huh.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I feel like such a jerk.
Whatever. In the actual creating of it though, like if I don't put enough goodies into that first 3 seconds, if I don't have something visually stimulating, if I don't have an interesting hook to pull you into the dialogue, that video is going to fail. you know. And one of the creators who, you know, mentored me and taught me when I first started out, he said something that was terrifying to me at first, and now I teach it to other people and I just terrify them. But he told me, hey, you know, every like 3 to 7 seconds you could lose your audience. Like if something isn't changing, it's not like you make one good video and it just works. You have to think of each moment in your video, pulling them into the next moment, you know? And like, yeah, that's what audiences expect. You'll notice when I'm running these commercials and stuff, the visuals are changing a lot. Another thing that I focus on that I do not hear any other video content creators on LinkedIn talk about is the subtitles. I focus very hard on having accurate subtitles, accurate captions. I put a lot of work into making sure that you can watch my videos on mute just as easily as you can with sound. And most video creators do not do this. But more than 50% of your audience is watching on mobile when you post something on, you know, LinkedIn or Twitter or something like that. If you are not anticipating that most people are going to watch your video with the sound off on mobile, it's not going to go very far, you know? So you have to put yourself in like a completely different mindset. And I say that video is a reading experience just as much as it is a watching experience. But if you notice, like even down to the timing of the jokes, I'm a sketch comedian and I always hated subtitles because they ruin jokes. They give you the punchline a half second too early. Mine don't do that. My subtitles hit you with the exact same timing as the joke does when I say it out loud. Because I actually like, I generate an auto transcribed caption first. Then I go through and I fix it. I adjust all the, you know, proper nouns. I put musical cues and sound cues in there. And then, I even adjust the timing. So the jokes they read just the same as they sound. Video has been very good to me and very good to my business. And even when I'm not getting crazy amounts of engagement, I'm almost always getting inbounds and I'm always finding ways to, you know, take on new clients and stuff like that. But again, it's because I put a lot more work into it than I do the text posts.
Right. Yeah. And I see that. Yeah. Now I'm realizing it might have sounded like a slight to your focus of what you do, but I didn't.
No. Again, they're just different beasts. They're different beasts. And text on LinkedIn has been very good to me too. Admittedly, not as much lately. I've really focused more on the video and the live events, and my text posts have taken a back burner. But fascinating stuff. What somebody asked here, we're for the sake of inclusion, shouldn't content be multimodal? Yeah, I actually say you know, getting as many people as you can to understand the message. That's the best way to do it. And that's why even my memes, even my images, they have alt text in there too, because not everyone can see. Brooklyn, I would love to have you here forever, but unfortunately we are out of time today.
How did that happen?
I don't know, just too much stuff to talk about. So why don't you just direct my audience one more time for anybody who joined us late and wants to meet you and connect with you and follow you on LinkedIn. What's your pitch to them?
Yeah, just send me a DM. I love these types of conversations. So if you're digging into whether it's your personal brand or content marketing for your business or your freelancer, I love having these conversations. So check me out on LinkedIn, send me a DM with what you're running into right now, and we can have a chat.
Excellent. Yeah. Check out Brooklyn. Check out Beam Content. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will be back next week, next Friday. We will be playing Death by PowerPoint once again with special guests Kate Irwin and Ben Gould. So go ahead, check out that show. Yeah, it's going to be
works with us. That's going to be so fun. I'll watch that one. That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So thank you very much. And we'll close it out with one more ad from one of our wonderful sponsors. But thanks again, as always, to Apollo.io and Flying Cat Marketing. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Wow, I can sell my B2B SaaS product anywhere in the world. Maybe I should start selling in Europe.
Not so fast, Jimmy. Have you ever run a European marketing campaign before?
No? Gosh, I guess not.
Can you write fluently in multiple languages?
No, just the one.
Do you know anything about regulations in Europe?
Well, maybe I could just have my team bullshit their way through it.
Sound familiar? Hello, my name is Dr. Funkenstein. You know, when I need medical advice, I ask a doctor, but when I need SEO advice, I ask Flying Cat Marketing. Flying Cat is the world leader in customized local SEO and marketing campaigns. They have a team of native language marketing experts spanning across 15 different countries to build fully local campaigns to create and capture demand and increase organic search conversions for your business.
Wow, Dr. Funkenstein. I reached out to Flying Cat just like you said, and they were super easy to work with. How can I ever repay you?
Don't worry, Jimmy. I'll be reaching out to you for a personal favor very soon.
What?